All right. I think we're recording. Let me see here. All right. So, this is the first episode from my channel, which is called the Interdimensional Fellowship Club. And
Awesome.
I have a very special guest. Her name is Robin Haynes, and she is a grid worker, a healer. She's an experiencer all around, and just a super duper person. And I'm so excited to have her as a guest. So
You are
if you want to
so
just,
sweet.
oh, thanks. Well, if you want to just like introduce yourself, maybe. I know
How
you've
can
done a
I
ton of
beat
these.
that introduction? How can I beat that introduction? Oh my gosh, you're just amazing. No, this is something that I never tried to get into. It's just who I am. It started as a small child. The cryptids, which are like Bigfoot, Sasquatch, dogmen, cat people, whatever, they were around me from the time I was little. I don't remember them not being around. First ET abduction that I remember was 4. I was told at that time they'd taken me before. I work with the elementals, the dimensionals, portals, rifts, vortexes, all of it. And that went into the energy work, which is the basis for everything. Energy, frequency, light is the basis and the core for absolutely everything that you do and experience and your frequency. And so that led into more things, and it grows. It's a process. It's something that continues from the time you get here until the time you leave, and then you go on to the next lifetime with it. So I just kind of have all of these paranormal things. My normal is paranormal. That's just the way it works. I speak to spirits. It's crazy. I live a very abnormal life, but for me, it's normal.
I am wondering, so you say that this has pretty much been with you your whole life. Do any of your relatives, like your parents, do they experience any stuff like this?
Not like this. No, not like this. My mom was always one that could talk to spirits from the time she was young. And so she always did. But that's as far as that went. She never had abilities other than that. Although she would get premonitions. She was really, really good with premonitions, which I also get. Learned a long time ago, follow the premonitions, because if I don't, things go bad really fast. And but that was as far as it went. None of them experienced anything that I go through. I don't know what the deal is with me, but mine was a little different. In fact, my sister never had any of these things go on at all. Literally nothing. And about a year ago, her and I were on the phone, and I was talking to her about information that I had been given from the cryptids, and I was talking to her about things that were going on with the ETs. I was concerned, for the family, and I'm like, I just want you guys to look out. Things are kind of a little crazy right now. If anything gets weird, somebody call me. And she said, how long has this gone on with you? And I said, birth. Like, I don't know any other way to put it. And she said, it's like we live 2 different lives, literally in the same house. She said, none of this. She said, I was so distanced from all of this. She said, I had no idea. I said, Mom didn't have any idea. I would ask questions, and her and my dad would look at me, and they'd be like, we have no idea. When I was born, I was asking about Sasquatch, and they were going, what are you talking about? The Patterson-Gimlin film wasn't even out yet. And so there were no books, there was no movies, there was nothing to look at for them to even get me answers. And so my family was as removed from this as you can be. The closest was my mom, and that was talking to spirits and the premonitions.
So when was your first experience? Like, what was as far as with the Sasquatch people?
I can remember, man, it was before I remember the ET abduction, and I was 4 then. By the time I was 4, I wanted to be out. I was looking into the woods all the time for stick structures, and back then that wasn't like something you would automatically know. Before then, I can remember being in the living room and seeing the faces up against the window. I know by the time I was 4, we lived in this subdivision that butted up to woods. And back then it was safe for your kids to be outside, so I would go to the end of the road, which is only a couple houses away. And I'd play, there was all dirt hills and sand and stuff, and I'd go down there and build little sand castles, and I'd ride my little tricycle around down there. And the whole time I was down there, there would be like 3 or 4 of them that would step out of the tree line and watch me.
Huh.
But I was never fearful. Like, I just didn't know to be afraid because they were always there. My mom said when I was, like 3 years old and I was talking, and that was the other thing. I did mind speak before I could talk. I didn't have any clue for the longest time that not everybody was telepathic. I had no idea. That was the biggest shock ever. And my mom told me stories about when I was, like 2 and 3 years old, and I had just learned how to talk. And I was in the car and she shut the car door and I just went crazy. And she opened the door thinking she shut my hand in the door. And she said, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I said, "You shut my lion's tail in the door." And she said, "You're lying." And I didn't know. It was a dog, man. I had no idea. The only thing I could compare it to, because it had a tail and it was covered with hair and it had the ears. And, that was, I didn't know what else to call him. But I did call him, she said I used to call him a lion. And that there was one with a tail and one without, which, obviously was a Sasquatch. But yeah, this was just part of me. My mom thought I had imaginary friends, and I kept telling her they're not imaginary. They're right next to you. Can't you see them? They're right next to you. Now we know about the cloaking, and they've explained to me how they cloak. They cloak because they raise their vibration and they bend the light around them, and you can't see them. Compare it to a hummingbird. When a hummingbird is at a hummingbird feeder, its wings are moving so rapidly, you don't see the wings. All you see is the body of that hummingbird at the bird feeder. You never see the wings because the vibration of those wings are so fast, your eyes and your 3-dimensional eyes, you can't see it. And it's the same thing. They vibrate, they use that frequency and energy to the extent that you can't see them, and they bend the light around them. When they shimmer, they don't do it at quite a fast capacity, and then it looks like that Predator, from the movie Predator. And it looks a little bit different. And it kind of looks like gelled water.
Yeah, I've seen video of one of them. Like, this was a video of a car driving, and the camera was looking out towards the woods, and Sasquatch was climbing up a tree, and then as the car was passing, it just like shut off, like just went invisible like a light.
Oh, I know. I've had them. Snap. Yeah, I've been out in the backyard with them, and I had one that I'm really close to, and he was in physical form. And he came up to me, and he got like 10 feet from me, and he was standing there. And we were just kind of like staring at each other. And my son came running from the backyard, and when he did, there was another one that was doing the belly crawl, going through the weeds that was right by him, and I didn't want him frightened, so I hollered to him, and I said, "Just be careful, such and such is right on the ground in front of you." And he stopped, but when I hollered, it scared him, the one that was standing next to me. And he literally went invisible in front of my eyes. Like, literally, in a blink of an eye, he was gone. And he never left. He was right there, but he just went from physical form to invisible in a minute. Just a blink of an eye. And they've done that several times. I've had them walk up behind me in the woods. I used to go out with them at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'd go out with them. And you would see them in physical form, but if they got too close or you got too close, and boom. But you knew they were still there. I was born and raised in Michigan, so we get the winters. And I was outside, and there was snow on the ground, and I'm walking. I used to walk the same path every day. They love predictability, so they know what you're doing. And I was walking, and as I'm walking, right next to me, footprints are being made in the snow. It was walking right next to me, but there was nothing there. I mean, it was crazy because there was literally nothing there, but yet he was there because I saw his footprints be made.
Sure. Yeah, the first footprints that I saw, and I'm in Michigan right now.
Oh, okay, great.
Negaunee is? It's about 9 miles away from Marquette.
I know exactly where Marquette is. Yes, I know where Marquette is. Yeah. My son went to college up in Marquette.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, there's a wetlands area that I take my dogs walking around in all the time. Really good blueberries, and it's just a beautiful place. The vibration is so much higher than in other places. I've always been attracted to that particular place. And I was walking, and this was in December, couple months ago. There wasn't any snow on the ground, but it's all kind of sandy with dunes.
Yeah.
And
it's beautiful
the sand
there.
was all Yeah. Oh, I love it. I'm so grateful to be here. But everything was frozen. All the sand was frozen, and I'm walking down this old logging trail, and all of a sudden I see these footprints, bare footprints, but they're like child sized. They were like
Yeah, the
maybe
kids were out.
like yeah, it was so crazy. I was like, what the heck is going on? It just blew my mind. I was like, either someone is out here in December in the middle of nowhere, walking around
And
barefoot.
you know they're not. There's no way. There's no way.
No,
Yeah,
no, never.
you know,
Yeah.
would they had gotten to the point at one of the places that I lived where they just walked around uncloaked all the time. I mean, it was nothing to look outside my front window and they'd be walking around the front yard. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, if they got startled or spooked or, you know, you got too close, they would cloak. But yeah, it's crazy. And in fact, the first print that I ever did a cast on was a baby. It was
Oh,
9
okay.
inches long and 4.5 inches wide. I was so excited. I still have that one.
So cute.
You know, I've got so many casts and I've really given them all away, to be honest with you. They've either gotten broken through the years. When I did the conference in Russia and Siberia, I left a couple for the museum there. And then I left a couple with Igor Borstev for the Darwin Museum. So, I mean, they're kind of spread out all over, but that baby cast, I don't let out of my sight.
So
That,
cute.
I just loved it.
Um, tell me a little bit about the Russian conference that you went to. That sounds really interesting.
It was fun. I was treated very well. It was
Mhm.
incredible. It was actually kind of by accident. I had spoke with somebody. I didn't let a lot of people know about what was going on at my place because I spent my whole life protecting these things. And I didn't want the attention. I didn't want them to have the attention. I wanted them safe. But I had been speaking with a gentleman out of Michigan that owns and runs Michigan Bigfoot. And he's tremendous. I just love him. And he knew what was going on at my place. I had worked with him years ago prior to that. And then when I moved, I was there a week and they showed up in the backyard again. And I had called him and he had come out. There was a lot going on at my place. There generally is. And he went to Salt Fork to the conference there and he called me and he said, I would like to tell Dr. Igor Borstev about what goes on at your place, if it's all right with you. And I said, well, I don't know who he is, but yeah, I guess that's fine. So he did. And he called me and he said, call me back. And he said, he would like to come out there. And I said, excuse me? And he said, yeah. He said, he wants to come out and he wants to see you and he wants to see the place and see what's going on. And I said, yeah, but can you trust him? And he said, oh, I trust him with my life. I said, yeah, you're asking me to trust them with their lives now. That's a little different.
Right.
Makes me nervous. And he said, no, I'm telling you, he's good. And I trust Bob with every fiber of my being. He's just an incredible human being. And I said, all right. The plan was he was going to come out and spend a few hours. He ended up coming and staying almost 10 days. And he only left because he had a flight back to Russia. He lives in Moscow. And before he left, he asked me to type up some of the things that were going on there. And I said, okay, I will. So I did for him. And he said, okay, now you come to Russia to present him at the conference. And I was like,
Whoa.
excuse me, like, I'm a housewife. I don't even leave the yard 98% of the time. I'm either out with the kids, the animals, or the Sasquatch. And he's like, no, you got to come and present it. So I did. And we went up in the Black Mountains and the Green Mountains and we did a museum thing. And they took us to various places and we did some ceremonies. And we went to Ez's Cave. It was incredible. We met some beautiful, beautiful, wonderful people there. Met some that weren't quite as nice, but for the most part, everybody was tremendous. The Russian people were very good to me. Like I never had a problem with any issues there at all. They were kind. They were extremely generous. You know,
Yeah.
so it was a lot of fun. Definitely fun.
I've read that the Russian culture is a bit more progressive as far as like
It's
energy healing
I
and
didn't. Yeah.
alternative sort of stuff.
What I noticed with it, I didn't really so much get that. What I took away from it, I think definitely they seem like they're busier and they're angrier 24 hours a day.
Ugh.
People
Well,
were
yeah.
very, yeah, they were very kind to me. I didn't have any problems. They treated me just phenomenally. But they go and they go and they go. And like Moscow's really crowded. And, you know, you're very careful with what you do. I really felt like, you know,
Right.
I was never in a situation where I wasn't safe.
Hmm.
You know, again, they were wonderful to me. but it's definitely not like it is here. You know,
Yeah, you can say
housing.
whatever you want here. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, housing is drastically different. You know,
Mm.
everybody's really on top of each other. Moscow was very crowded. Um, I think it's just the whole culture is different, so you feel different when you're there, you know. But again, I did not have anybody that I was associated. They were very careful with me and with the other participants at the conference, just because you know we were visitors from out of the country. I never saw anybody there that were part of the conference not treat the presenters, you know, completely wonderful at any time. They had beautiful dinners for us. We got to stay in the lodge. Yeah, it was really a beautiful experience. I loved it. Like I said, there was a few people that probably aren't going to be on my Christmas card list, but they weren't from Moscow or Russia. They were actually from the States. But other
Oh,
than that, it was just truly, it was a blessing for sure. And, you know, I was so lucky that they even wanted me to come. It was not anything I expected. And I went from being somebody that, you know, really I was home all the time with the animals and the kids and the Sasquatch. And then all of a sudden I'm on the other side of the world and, you know, in front of a camera. So it was a little bit different. But I was very naive. I thought what happens in Russia stays in Russia. And we got off the plane and we went to Moscow first and then to Siberia. And I got off the plane in Siberia and nothing but flash bulbs were going off in my face as well as the other presenters. It wasn't just because
oh,
it was me.
wow.
The only difference with me was I was a woman opposed to a man, and that created a little bit of a not so much a blow up, but they were just like, "Oh, you're that American woman." Everywhere I went, you're that American woman, you know.
Right.
And we stayed at this beautiful lodge, and they were wonderful there. And it was right by a little village called, and I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Heaven help me, Tushkagal. And so we got to walk down to the little village, and the people were warm and loving and kind. And you know, I can't say enough about how well I was treated when I was there. Really, like I said, the only
Awesome.
problem I had didn't come from their people.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. I have a question. I wrote down all these questions. I have a little list. Do Sasquatch originate from somewhere else? Are they from here? Where are they from?
Well, it depends on who you ask. I mean, I go right to them and ask questions.
Hmm.
Most of them now are all born here. I mean, but they do live
Okay.
hundreds of years. You know, some of them can go up to 1,000 years or more. Um, we were here before they were. Genetically, they are a human hybrid. That is a fact. If you ask them, they're going to tell you the same thing. You know,
Mm.
Dr. Melba Ketchum did the DNA study on it. I was part of that. I did nothing scientific. That is way above my pay grade. I deal with the paranormal. I deal with them with the flesh and blood and, you know, have interaction. I, science wise, no. But I had asked them prior to meeting her, what are you? Like, people are fighting over this. It's ridiculous. And they pointed to me and they said, you know, we're human like you. And then they pointed up and said, star people. So that was what they had told me. So then fast forward years after that, they were the one that told me the DNA study was going on. And they said, go help her. She knows the truth. And I said, I don't know who this person is. And they described her, but they didn't have a name. I found out from a friend of mine that it was the Sasquatch Genome Project, and her name was Dr. Melba Ketchum. And I had my friend who knew her reach out to her and say, you know, they're telling her to help you if you want it. I didn't want to
Mm.
intrude. I let her have that option. She contacted me and said, how do they want you to help me? And I said, I have no idea. Not a clue. Other than I'm supposed to help you. And I'm no scientist, so I'm not going to be any help there. So I did other things for her, paperwork. I helped, you know, schedule things. I worked with the public for her, kind of like a liaison and kind of like that wall so that everybody couldn't get to her and bombard her so she could focus on the work. And it worked out really well. In fact, we're working on the genome project now again for other cryptids. And so, you know, we did that. But now you fast forward now, and different sectors of Sasquatch, when you ask them what they are, you know, there are bad ETs that want them dead.
Mm.
There are good ETs that are fine with them. And so depending on which group you ask is the reaction that you get. And one is like, no, star people bad, don't want star people. We're not star people. We're human like you, but we're children of God. The
Mhm.
reality is it's both correct. Okay. And I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this, but I'm just putting it out there. Even in the Bible, it says God created in the heavens and the earth. Okay. We don't get to decide what's out in the heavens that God created, because that's not up to us, it's up to God. So, the ones that will say star people and human, star people are up in, the galaxies, which God created all of, so chances are real heavy that he created those too. I think we have demonic things out there, and we have fallen angels out there and all that, but there's also a lot of things out there that he did create. So I really feel like both set of Sasquatch are being truthful.
Okay.
I do know a lot of these cryptids are created by the star people through genetic manipulation. Whether it be a dogman or a Sasquatch, dogman were created by a lot of different ways. That is only one of many.
Okay.
And, Sasquatch can be the same way. But that's what they've always told me. The things that I've learned from them. I didn't get it out of a book. I didn't learn it from other people. I did have a woman that was a very dear friend of mine that taught me a lot, and I give her credit for that. She taught me traditions and things that I needed to be aware of, and she was absolutely vital to me for a long time. But all the information on them, their culture, their way of life, the languages, the alphabets, the laws, all of that came from them. I figure if I want the truth, let's go to the source.
Yeah.
Sure. So, but they were actually on this planet after us. That's how they got the human DNA on the mitochondrial side, which would be the mother. That comes back human.
Do they have jobs? Like, are they guardians of the portals and the grids, or
there's various things that they do. Yes, I mean that's another one that's kind of a yes question, but the thing of it is they have different things that they do within their clan. There might be a warrior, there might be a hunter, there might be a guardian, various things, a hunter, whatever they do. As far as what they've told me about the planet, they are here to help take care of the planet. They're here to help nurture the planet. They're here to help us. The reason that their people survive and go as well as they do, and have been able to stay around for so many years, everything is done through the collective consciousness. Okay? The basis for everything is frequency, energy, and light. It's just the way it is. Doesn't matter what religious belief you are, it's frequency, energy, and light. So then that all transfers into the consciousness. With our people, not everybody, clearly, but a large number of our people tend to be all about themselves and not about the greater good, not about everybody as a collective. That is not how the cryptid world works. Even the ones that do not like each other all work together for the greater good, as far as through that collective consciousness. Now, the bad are bad, and there are plenty of bad ones, but there's just as many good ones, if not more. Just like with our people, we have murderers, pedophiles, rapists, all these terrible people. And yet then we have other people that are just tremendous and are pure of heart and are good and want nothing but the best for everybody. It's the same with their people.
Okay.
But they all work through a collective consciousness. That's why they're so telepathic. That's why they're all empaths. That's why they can do the things that they can do. They achieve that because they are high frequency, high energy beings. When our frequency and energy is high enough, we are able to do not everything they do clearly, but a lot of it. The telepathy kicks in, the healing energetically kicks in, and the consciousness does. We don't function on a collective consciousness, all of us. Some of us do. And because we don't, that's why their people succeed where ours fail.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. Hopefully we're starting to figure it out. I'm wondering, who are the ancient ones? Are they related to Sasquatch, or are they a separate?
It depends on who you ask. I mean, I personally think the ancient ones are, just one more kind, and they've been around longer. They know more. Their hierarchy to their culture. They've got the life on them is a lot longer. You'll find that the ones that are using the portals and are using the abilities that they have, because it puts them with the higher frequency and high energy, tend to live longer. And we see those, can be up to 900 years of age, if not more. The ones that their clans, because it's up to the clan leader as far as what they're willing to let their people do in that clan. Are they going to let them use all the abilities? Are they going to make them stay flesh and blood? It's up to them. If they're staying more flesh and blood than they are anything else, their life expectancy is not what, the other ones will do. They all are, please ignore the dogs. I'm so sorry. I have a lot of dogs. I used to have an animal rescue.
Oh yeah, no problem. I have a ton of dogs at my house too.
Oh my gosh,
They're all
it's ridiculous. Yeah, it's
yeah.
ridiculous. But some of them were so abused that I promised them I'd never let them go anywhere else where they had another chance of being hurt again. So they've
Aw.
kind of taken over everything. But so that clan leader will determine that. If they all are born with abilities, if the laws of that particular clan state that they're not going to be allowed to use them, the parents don't teach the kids that they have them. If they don't know that they have them, they don't know to use them. So it's taught by the adults. And we've seen this before where some don't even know they have abilities. They all know how to cloak, they all know how to use the telepathy, but they don't use the other abilities. And then something happens, they end up with a different clan, or maybe they pick a mate from a different clan, and that's all paranormal abilities all the time. And they very quickly adapt and will start using them. But if you don't know you can do something, how do you use it? You don't.
Right.
So it's kind of like a little bizarre, but that's really and truly that's how it works. I've watched it happen like that for years.
So are there some clans that are just like basically just physical, flesh and blood?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
they're old school. They don't believe in using anything. They all still speak telepathy, and they all still work together through the collective consciousness, but they stay in a physical form. When they stay in that physical form, it keeps their frequency and their energy down, even though they are a being that is higher than us. And they don't use those abilities when they're not going through these portals with the high frequency, when they're not doing the paranormal stuff with the high frequency. It really and truly does lower their age as far as their life, because they do not have the immune system like to diseases and things that the other ones do, because they don't have to worry about the sickness as much as they're going through all the portals. Do they get sick? Yeah, absolutely. They all get sick. But the ones that stay flesh and blood are more prone to our illnesses.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
That makes sense.
they're more prone to a shorter life expectancy.
Well, I mean, same as humans, right? Like
Oh
people who
yeah.
have negative
Yeah.
outlooks and
Oh
focus on the
yeah.
negative
It makes a
tend to,
huge difference. It really does.
right? Yeah. Let me see. Have you had any negative experiences with Sasquatch directly?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Not
I mean, you
everything
don't
likes
have
me.
to go into detail if you don't
No,
feel
you're
like it.
fine. No, basically for me, because I do a lot of work for them,
Mhm.
whether it be healing, whether it be blessings, whether it be changing the energy on the land, fixing the land, um, going and dealing with aggressive ones, going and dealing with the good ones. I mean, whatever they need me to do, I try to do. So basically, the good ones want me around. The bad ones would prefer I'm dead. So I do get interaction with some of the good and the bad. I've been asked to go to different areas where there are some crabby ones. And so, yeah, there's definitely good and bad in all of them.
Okay.
The thing of it is, and I've talked about this on other shows as well, the bad ones really kind of band together, and the good ones don't want anything to do with them because they don't like the negativity. They don't like the hate and the anger that's in them. So they kind of stay separated. Now, that being said, all clans, it's just like, in your family. In your own family, for the most part, they're probably all good, but you always have that one person in the family that's the party pooper or negative or not nice to everybody. We all got them. I mean, we do.
Right.
So they might have one of those, and usually the leaders of the clan will deal with that one accordingly. But I mean, for the really, really bad ones, they'll get in clans of being bad. But we tend to, because we don't seem to care whether or not it's a good experience or a bad experience. Like, we need to be more in tune with this. If you're going to interact with these things, you want positive experiences, because the positive experiences will lead to more. When you deal with the negative ones, the negative experiences, the good ones don't want anything more to do with you. You're already
Right.
typecasted. They are done with you. It is over. So, but we do have people that will go to these areas where the bad ones are at because they don't care what kind of experience. They just want an experience.
Mm.
And unfortunately, that is just, it's not the best idea ever. People can get hurt. This can be a very interesting field of research. You can learn a lot, not only about them, but about yourself, about your life, about our world, and about things that you never dreamed possible. It can also get you killed. Okay. I mean, people have died with this stuff because they've gone up and there's been the wrong ones there. I will say there is more good ones than bad ones. A lot of it is misinterpretation. Their culture is different than us. Their words have different meanings than us. They have their language. They have our language. They can mind speak. They can do all of these things. But I deal with a lot of people that get trauma just from having seen them. And it's like, okay, did they physically hurt you? No. Okay, did they physically touch you? No. What did they do? They yelled at me and they waved their arms at me. Now, I get that that's traumatic. I really do, because we look as scary to them as they do to us, to be honest with you. So I understand how frightening that can be, to be out in the woods, not knowing you're going to experience this and have this, 8 to 10, 12 feet tall being show up and screaming at you and carrying it can be terrifying. I'm not taking away from that at all. The reality of it is, it could be more than just it was being aggressive. If they want to hurt you, there is nowhere on this planet or any other planet you can go. They're going to get you.
Mm.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
But in that same regards, they do a lot of things to try to warn us before it escalates to that point. So a lot of times when you see one that yells at you and waves its arm at you, in the military, if you have your hands above your head waving at you, it's surrender.
Yeah.
Yet when
Right.
they do it, it's an attack. It could be that you're getting too close to their family, you're getting too close to their children, and they are more protective of their family and children than we ever thought to be, because they're a high frequency, high energy being, which means all emotions are at a much higher charge level than ours ever will. They hate deeper and they love deeper, and they are more protective than we can even imagine. Or it could be that there's some other predator in the woods that could hurt you, and they're trying to turn you around to
Oh,
stop you
yeah.
from doing something that can get you hurt.
True.
So absolutely understand how terrifying that can be. I get it. Been there, done that. Okay. So I'm not taking away from that fear at all. Just giving an explanation that it is normally a much deeper explanation than just the face value that we see.
Yeah.
And they come from a different mindset than we do. And, so that has a lot to do with it as well.
Well, and also when you're walking around the woods with a gun, that can seem pretty threatening to something else.
It
That,
is. And,
you know.
I work with a lot of people as they go out and interact with them. And in all fairness, I have to say, I can see why someone would take guns out, not for the cryptids, but you go out in the forest, you've got bear, you've got cougar, you've got wolves, you've got coyotes, you have a lot of predators out there. And when you go out in the woods, you become prey, really. So I can understand them bringing a weapon. So what I tell the people I work with, whether or not you can mind speak, they can. They can hear your thoughts. It's not required that you can hear it back. Most people do get mind speak. They just don't realize that's what they're getting because they were never taught all the different ways you can receive it. But regardless, go out there in your mind, tell them, let them know you brought it. I have a gun, I have a knife, I have this, I have that. This is not for you. This is because other predators are dangerous for me and can physically hurt me. Know that if you come to me with a pure heart and with good intentions, this is not for you. Say it verbally, say it in your mind. And I tell people this, and they're like, well, they can read my intent. They already know. Absolutely, they can read your intent. They already know what your intent is before you tell them. But when they read your intent and then you verbally tell them, it sits in their head that, you know what, they're not lying. They're being honest, because the words they speak are the same thing as their intent. And let them know. Are they going to be cautious? 100% they're going to be cautious of that weapon. But then there's a basis for understanding. And you have a much better chance, because nothing's foolproof, a much better chance of still getting interaction even with it on. I know some top-notch researchers that carry a weapon every time they go in the woods. And they do this. They explain it to them. They let them know. These are highly intelligent beings, people, you know. give them the opportunity to be able to be understanding. Give them the opportunity to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. They like predictability. They like honesty. They like pure hearts. If you're going in there and you have an ulterior motive and you're going into the woods, that's their home. Be prepared for what you get. You know, I
Yeah.
had, years ago, I had somebody that wanted to kidnap me and put me in a cage because that would make the Sasquatch come in to save me and they could kill one.
Oh,
I had another, yeah, I had another person
wow.
that was after myself and 4 other female researchers, and they were going to bash our head in, as they put it, with a lead pipe so that when our brains oozed out on the ground, that would make the Sasquatch come in to protect us so they could bag a Bigfoot.
Oh,
Disgusting. Disgusting
yeah.
human beings.
Wow.
Number one, I don't care how much they are attached to any of us, they will protect their people before they will ever protect ours. So that would have never worked, guys. Bad idea. You just would have gotten in trouble. But that doesn't mean they're going to come running in. You know, people, I would rather be out in the woods with a thousand Sasquatch any day of the week that I don't know and take my chances there than be out in the woods with 1,000 people of our people. And we're just, as far as I'm concerned, we're the more dangerous of species.
Yeah, definitely. Because we don't have that. We don't
Right. And
have
we've
the
never, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say, because we don't have that higher vibration, that collective consciousness vibration
Exactly.
yet. So
Yeah.
we don't
And,
have.
you know, the highest frequency that you have comes from your heart, and that's love. And if you are a person that is dark in energy, you don't have that love in your heart. So your frequency is already low. You know, you can change your frequency. You can change your energy. I teach people through my business every day how to use their energy and frequency in light. And I teach them how to increase it in a natural way so that they're not in any danger. You can do all of those things, but if you choose and you make a conscious choice not to, and you stay in that negative frequency and vibration, you are what you are. But don't expect them to interact in a positive manner. Expect the bad ones to interact with you like you've never seen, because they're not going to want you around. In fact, you know, it's become very, very apparent that the negativity, the low frequency, and the low energy actually physically makes them sick. They cannot
Oh,
survive in it. They're not in it. They cannot deal with it. It affects their health. And it really does ours as well. We just, you know, choose to ignore that.
yeah, right. Um, do you have any experiences you'd like to share with them?
Um, Not really anything specific. I mean, I've been very blessed. Why? I have no idea. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful and I'm humbled that they've allowed me to see what they have. And, you know, there's more on the horizon. There always is. But it works. You know, the bad ones have come after me, but the good ones have always been there too. And they have been very good to me. You know, I've had 6 different times that they've saved my life. And I'm grateful every day that they did. But they choose who they want to interact with, and they would interact with more of us if we would get to that place of frequency and energy and consciousness. Everything comes down to that consciousness, and you know, the mind speak is all part of that. You know, mind
Mhm.
speak is given in so many different ways. It can be a thought, an emotion, a sense of knowing. It doesn't have to be words. It can be a word that's spelled out. It can be a picture, an image. You know, and 98% of us have already gotten it. We just don't know it because we don't recognize it, because nobody's ever taught us what it is. That's all it is. But we are all capable of it. Everybody is capable of it. Once you get out of the confines of your mind that the powers that be have said, you're not capable of this. This doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. Once you get out of that box, once your frequency is up, it's automatic and it comes to you. You don't have to try really hard. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I've had great experiences with them. You know, I was laying in bed one night and I looked over, and there's one that I'm very close to, and he's looking in the window and his face is just pushed up against the window, and he's got this big old grin on his face. And I'm like, I am not entertainment tonight. I just rolled over and went back to bed.
Oh, that's
You know,
funny.
they do the craziest things. The Sasquatch seem to have a lot more sense of humor than the dogmen. There are some dogmen that can be pretty comical, but
Yeah.
um,
I've heard they're pretty serious.
they're much more stoic. They're the guardian. I mean, they literally are the police of the woods. And while some of them will want interaction, it's not nearly the level that the Sasquatch do. You know, they're different, but they're not all bad. I get so frustrated because people go on and they talk about them, and it's just like they're these demonic things coming to kill everybody, and that's just not true. I mean, we have some groups that are bad, but we have some groups of people that are bad. I mean, in Michigan, my gosh, you go down in Detroit and you've got the gang fights and everything else. I mean, how is that any different than what these things do? And then it depends what created them. The ones the government made, and the governments did create cryptids, unfortunately, and those are generally not kind. And then the ones that are good, you know, they get hung out to dry for it. It depends on what created them. It depends on them as individuals. You know, these are hybrids. We don't, you know, we'll see what the DNA for the dogmen say. We're quite excited about that. It's not done yet. It's taken a long time. People are getting excited and they're like, you know, when's it done? When's it done? We can't push it. We want it accurate. So it's still being done, and it will get done, and we will have the answers that we want on the dogmen. But I think we're going to find there's so many different cryptids, and the ETs are creating cryptids and dropping them off as well.
Wow.
So there's a lot out there. There's cryptids out there.
There's so much going on.
Yeah, there's cryptids out there that the Sasquatch gave a blanket term of the name Micaiah. And they said that that means ye that walks the earth that has no name. So these are just unnamed cryptids that nobody really has been seen much of. So there's no name tag on them and have been dropped off, either government created, ET created, or evolved on their own. And they're running around. I mean, I've seen some crazy, crazy things that I have no idea what they are. I mean, I had one that walked down the side of my house and through the brush. Thing was the size of an elk, had ears like a rabbit, a long, narrow head to it, not like a deer though. And it had, you know, these big high haunches like you would see on a rabbit. I don't know what that thing was, but it walked down my tree line and then it cloaked. So, you know, there you have it. Didn't take away from the fact I saw it. I mean, I've saw it a couple times since then. It doesn't appear negative in nature. It's never tried to harm anybody. It's just living its life. So it's like, do whatever it's got to do. Right. But I read energy signatures and I do energy work. And so that helps too, because I'm able to read the energy on things. So it's easier for me to tell good from bad. I'm not perfect, but I do a fairly decent job, I think. And energy doesn't lie. You can't change energy. You can lie to someone's face and you can tell them that you're wonderful or you're good or you're bad or all of these things. Your energy is not going to change who you really are inside. So it's easy to tell. When people go to meditate and things come in to talk to them, they can tell you they're anything. If you don't know how to read the energy signature, you're going to believe what they say. Because you're in a place of peace, you're in a place of a high frequency and energy. It could be anything coming in. But once you know how to read that energy signature, things can't fool you like you think they can.
Right. Yeah. 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 I've definitely had experiences with that, with meditating, and something will come in and, you know, turns out to be something very different than what you think.
Yeah.
I am wondering about, I've actually been really curious about water elementals, like water dragons, water spirits. I live next to Lake Superior, and so I talk to the spirit of the lake a lot. And I do get some information and a lot of like wonderful energy from the lake. But I was wondering if you have any experiences with like water beings.
Not a lot, a little. You know, I've interacted like, you know, mermaids. It's not hard to get a mermaid to talk. It really isn't. It generally, you have to remember, when you mind speak, it doesn't, space is not there. When you mind speak, it doesn't matter what you're talking to. It's like they're present right there because it's done through the collective consciousness. So you can talk to anything. I still talk to the Sasquatch in Russia from when I was there, and that was back in 2011 or 12. But, you know, different elementals that are around the water I've dealt with, there's a strong connection with the water. Like you can feel, just to touch the water, the energy is just electric. And for a long time, I just felt compelled to be by the water and to talk to the things that were in the water, the things that would come from the water, that embodied the water. And it's a very powerful energy that comes from there, you know? And so it's one of those things, like for me, It's just a matter of I focus on what I want to talk to, and if it responds, I can talk to it. If it doesn't respond, it doesn't. You know, it's like they always are talking about the Loch Ness monster. Not a hard thing to talk to. It's generally right there. You know, go down to the water, and
you've talked to the Loch Ness monster?
anybody can. It's not that hard. You know, and I know I sound crazy, and everybody thinks I'm nuts, but
No,
it's
it
all
doesn't sound
about your
crazy.
intent.
I think it's
It's
amazing.
all about your intent. It's just your intent. That's all it is. It's your collective consciousness and intent. Have I done it a lot? No. No, I don't. It's not like we're on a first name basis and we're planning dinner parties, you know. It's just I've had people ask me if I can connect with it before, and I'm like, oh, let me try, you know, and then you do. I know when I'm in the water, when I'm in the lakes, as I've gotten older and abilities have gotten stronger, I'm not as comfortable in the lakes. I used to love it. Now, because I can feel the frequency from all the things in the lakes, I'm less
Right.
comfortable. And there are spirits, there's are, you know, entities that live within those waters. There really and truly is. And I can remember being in Michigan, and I went to Diamond Lake, and we used to go to Diamond Lake all the time and take the kids there every year. I mean, multiple times. We only lived like 5 or 6 miles from it. And I got to the point where I knew something was in that lake. I knew it was. It would talk to me. I could mind speak with it. So I got to where when I went in, as soon as I got where I couldn't see my feet anymore and the water got dark, I was done. I wasn't staying in there. I could feel it getting close to me every single time. And I was like, it didn't feel bad, but I
Yeah.
don't like things that I can't see touching me. If they want to touch me in physical form, if they want to show themselves, knock themselves out, they can touch all they want, as long as it's, you know, not anything disgusting. But I don't like it when I can't see them. And I'll go out in the woods with the Sasquatch, and they'll come up cloaked, and they're constantly patting my hair, you know, doing this. And it drives me crazy. I'm like, I don't care. Play with my hair. Just let me, you know that you're there, so it's not out of the clear blue sky. They used to, when younger, this was back in like 2010 through 2015, my bed was right by my window. And the clan I interacted with there, I was very close with. I still am. So some of them follow me to South Carolina, and hopefully will follow me when I move to Texas here shortly. And they would put their hands in the window, and I would get up, and they would trance me. You know, trancing, they push energy on you so that your brain is fully functioning, but your body is not. You're not paralyzed by any means. Your body goes into automatic responses, just like a robotic thing, but your mind stays very attuned and very active. And they would do that. I'd get up the next morning, and I'd have mud and leaves and grasses and everything in my hair.
Oh,
Because they
wow.
would be late. Yeah, they'd put their hands in the window, and they played with my hair all night long. You know, and I was like, come on, guys.
You guys have hair too.
I know. They did my daughter's hairbrush one time. She left it on the porch, and she had her dolls out there. When she was little, she was brushing the doll's hair, and she came in for the night, and she had accidentally left the brush out there. And the next day it was gone. And she loved that particular hairbrush because it had a hologram, or not hologram, but one of those things on the back of it. So if you move the hairbrush, it looked like something was moving on it. It was really cool. And she was devastated she couldn't find it. So the next day it came back, but it came back in 2 pieces because they had been apparently brushing hair and snapped it. There's lots of hair samples in there, so that was good. You know, those of course got put away and sent to a lab, but
Yeah. It was like covered
yeah.
in Sasquatch hair.
Oh yes, it was.
That's so funny.
It was, and it popped the handle right off of it. I had a female named Sadie that came into the yard every now and then. In fact, she brought her baby to show it to me right after the baby was born. And
Aw.
she was in the yard. Her hair, she looked like Cousin It from the Addams Family, only king size. Her hair was
Wow.
long like that, and it was copper colored, and it just shone like, I don't know what she brushed it with. I wish I had hair like that. It was
Wow.
incredible, just beautiful. And when she would walk, because of the mass of muscles, it would literally, the hair would just like part over these muscle masses. Just
Oh,
extraordinary.
wow. She must have been shampooing with Pantene.
I'm
She had that
telling you,
beautiful hair.
whatever she was using, we all need to, because she had the most gorgeous hair, I think, of any Sasquatch I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of them, and I've had them get quite close to me at times. And if they're not getting up close to me, then they're showing me them in my mind or whatever. And I've seen a lot of them, but none of them that were as beautiful as she was. I mean, her hair was just exquisite.
Aw, that's so cool. Do they ever give you like healing tips? Like
Yes.
herbs or
Oh
really?
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Uh,
nice.
Excuse me. They use a lot of ginger. They use a lot of oh no, I can't think of the name. They use it for coffee. What is it called? My mind went blank. I know ginger they use a lot of. They have a lot of recipes. They use that.
Turmeric?
You know. Thank you. Yes. Turmeric. They love to use that for various things. Willow bark extracts, a big thing that they use. Different kinds of pine trees for medicinal things. So they use that. They have a lot of things. They're very gifted in that. I was very fortunate that I was given a couple of recipes through Janice Carter's clan, and then mine confirmed it. And Janice, I had them contact me for some things, and they work. They truly work. And it's not that they don't want us to have them. Okay. The problem is our people tend to take any gifts that they have and try to turn it into a money making machine.
Right.
These beings are not into money. If you give them something, they do the barter like the Native Americans, and they will do an exchange. They abhor money. They think, it's the root of all evil, which it is. And they don't want anything to do with it. They don't want us making money off of them. If you write a book of your experiences, that's fine. Sell a t-shirt at a flea market, they don't care. But when you take things that are theirs and you take it and you turn it into a profit, they have issues. They have big issues. I don't blame them. And
Yeah.
so they really don't give us a lot of the recipes that they have. They give some. And I've had them through the years come up and say, do this, so it'll work. It'll work. And it always does. I mean, it really does. But they go through, and this is just my own personal opinion. I don't have any facts on this. They use a lot of the Native American traditions, and they use a lot of the recipes that they've learned through the Native Americans, which is tremendous. And then they have their own. They live off the land. They have to.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that is so cool. Next time I go out, maybe I'll grab some organic ginger and turmeric and leave it for them.
Yeah, they love it. I had one that got hold of me, and she was like, she needed the organic ginger. She needed it immediately, and she needed the turmeric. She had a sick child, and she had me do healing work on the child, and I did that.
Oh, okay.
And then that they wanted the turmeric and the ginger, or turmeric. I never pronounced it right, you guys. I'm really sorry. And
Okay.
so this is 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. I get dressed, I run to Walmart, I buy this stuff for them, I put it out in the woods. And the ones in Michigan are phenomenal at taking things. The one here in South Carolina is not as easy. They wouldn't touch it because it was in a glass jar. And I said, if I
Oh,
take it out of the container, it's raining out, it's going to dissolve into the ground. And they would not touch it because they weren't allowed to. And I said, how did you want me to get it to you? So I went back to the store and I just got the ginger root. And they did take the ginger root, but they never took the turmeric at all because it was in a container. The ones in Michigan, it wouldn't matter what I did, they took it.
you get them a
My
box
group,
of donuts and they'll eat
I
it
got
up.
teased so bad for being called the blueberry bagel girl because mine were obsessed with blueberry bagels and they would eat them. I could not get enough. I would go to the store and I'd wipe out every single store I came to for the blueberry bagels because they would just inhale them. And
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool. And I said something about it after I got back from Russia. I had talked about it in Russia. I came home. I talked about it when I came home, and that was it. I was just harassed like you have never seen over the blueberry bagel girl, crazy woman that feeds blueberry bagels to Sasquatch. And I thought, you know what? I
Oh
don't care.
no.
Because while you're telling me I'm this crazy woman, I'm outside with them, interacting on a daily basis and handing them bagels.
Right.
So
Yeah, you're
I was
having
like,
all
if
these
that's what it
amazing
takes to be
experiences.
crazy, yep, count me in. Yeah,
I've given
it's
them
been.
goldfish crackers before. They
Oh,
love
I'm sure
that
they
stuff.
love them.
Oh yeah.
They do.
I mean,
You
They're
know, I
delicious.
always tell everybody just be cautious with a lot of the sweets. They don't have a lot of dentists, and so there's that. But they still get sweets now and then. I mean, I don't feed them every day. I did for years. I was by
Mm,
myself. I had nobody to go to for guidance. Certain clans, if you feed them every day, even though you will never be able to feed them enough to sustain their lives because they're so big, they get dependent on it. And then when you stop, they get very angry and some can get aggressive. Now, the ones that I had in Michigan, I fed them daily. Like those little fiends, I was going through $200 plus a week in groceries for them.
oof.
But I didn't know any better. And I
Mhm.
was very blessed that it was a clan that when it stopped, because I got divorced and I moved, when it stopped, I had no problems. Like they did not get nasty with me at all.
Oh,
Or if I was sick and I couldn't get out there and bring food out that night or whatever, I never had any repercussions from it. But that really and truly is not always the case. So if
mhm.
you're going to feed them, that's fine. Do it on an irregular basis so that they don't expect it at a certain time or demand it. You can also gift feathers, rocks, beads, toys. Don't do a lot at one time. It scares them. When they see a lot of gifts at one time, in their head, it's a trap. They
Right.
already think that it's a trap to begin with, but it overstimulates them. And then it's just like they back right off. I've had people that put out like 8 little toys and they're like, they won't go near it. But yet, when I just put this other one out, they took it. Yeah, because you put the other one out. Now you've got 8 of them and they're like, okay, this is a trap. What's it going to do to me?
Right. Yeah, when I leave food, I'll leave apples or something and I'll take a bite out of the apple and I'll be like, "All right guys, just letting you know there's nothing wrong with this and
Yeah,
take
that's a
it if you
great
want to, but
idea.
if you don't want to, that's
No, but
okay
that's a
too."
really smart idea. Impressive. It really is.
Oh,
I one
I
day
didn't think of it. Somebody gave me the idea.
Yeah, but it is a really good idea no matter where you got it. I went one
Yeah.
time and I had one banana left and it was getting gonna go bad. And I thought, you know what, I'll put it out there with their other food. So I put it out there. And it wasn't somebody said to me one time, oh, it's because they're a monkey. They're not a monkey. They're no more monkey than we are. So get it out of your head. They are a human hybrid. They are a type of people, not our type of people, but a type of people nonetheless. They are not monsters. They're not Nephilim. They get very agitated when you call them any of those things. But although, we have reasonably possibly the ones that are so aggressive may have Nephilim in them, but there's no way to prove that. But anyway, I put the banana out and I went out the next morning and they had grabbed the end of it and just bit down on the end of it and bit the end off of it. So, of course, they had the peel and everything. And then you found it spit out on the ground. They're very unhappy. So, I felt bad because I thought, gosh, I don't want them to think I was setting them up because it tasted so bad. So I went into town, I bought more bananas, I came back, I took it out, and I was standing out there where I put the food out at, and I'm like, okay, guys, this is what we do. See, this is me peeling this back because you have to understand, Michigan is not native for bananas. Why would they know?
Right.
Unless they portaled somewhere where bananas grow, they're not going to know. And I peeled the peel back, and then I broke a piece of the banana off, and I said, see, now you can eat it. But this is how you get to it. You don't eat this part. So I left that one there and put another one. Went out the next day and I found 2 banana peels on the ground and bananas were gone. I mean,
They're
never had
like,
a
"Wow,
problem.
these are pretty good."
I know. And then one time I was always doing crazy things to try to see how they would react. And I kept a logbook of what they did. Put a bucket out there and because they loved fish and they were always going to the lakes near my house and they would get fish, but then I would find the fish buried all over the property. Fish were buried everywhere. It was crazy. You'd find these little mounds of dirt and they had the fish buried in it.
Why would they bury the fish?
Because my property was mostly sand, and I think in their mind, sand preserved it.
Oh,
Because there would be their footprints all around it, and you'd find these mounds, and there was sand, there was fish buried in them. I mean, it was crazy. Wouldn't have been there the night before, but it was there the next day. So I took a bucket and I bought a bunch of goldfish and I put them in the bucket and I put it out there and I said, "See, you guys, it's fish. Talk about ticking them off." Apparently, carp is not the favorite food source. They did not like the taste of carp. There was a goldfish that was bit in half and spit out on the ground, and they never touched another goldfish ever. The kids kept them, the goldfish as pets. They wanted nothing to do with them. But yet, if I got a bluegill, if my kids went fishing and got a bluegill and put it in that bucket, that sucker was gone in a heartbeat.
Huh. That's
They know what they're doing.
interesting.
They absolutely know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people won't eat carp either. They say they're
No, and I never thought about it. I
trash
just
fish.
thought it would be a great experiment to see what they would do with it. That's the only reason why I did it to begin with. Yeah. It's like
Just see what
bonehead move on my
happens.
part. I used to go in the beginning when I was at that one place in Michigan where I had so much interaction. I took a milk crate and I put this big platter, a plastic platter. It was a black pumpkin. It was for Halloween. And I put the treats and things on that platter. And then I put a milk crate upside down over the top of it and concrete cement, the cement cinder blocks. I put two of them on top of the milk crate because I thought there's no way a raccoon, a possum, anything is going to be able to get in there
Yeah.
to steal the food. And I did that, and I was so amazed. I came out the next day. They had lifted up the milk crate. All the food was gone. They set the milk crate back down, and there was only like a hairline off of where I had it. It was
Wow.
that close. I could not believe it. I was floored. Like I couldn't lift that up myself. I had to take the cinder blocks down to be able to get to the milk crate. It didn't look like they had set those cinder blocks down anywhere because I took a rake and I raked all around and it was all sand all around it. If they would have set those cinder blocks down, I would have seen there's no way. So the next day I did it again. This time they not only took the food, they took the plate. Never saw the plate again. But the milk crate was back where it was. And then I had a cage. It was an old rabbit cage, but it was welded. It was solid. Like there was no way into it except the one door. And I put plates of food in there. And then I took snaps. And I outlined the door so that nothing could even pry that door up and get its head in, let alone in to get the food. So there were snaps all around the door. I went out the next day. The snaps were hanging on the cage. All the food was gone.
Yeah, they're pretty smart.
I did that again that night. I went out the next day. The snaps were back in place. The plate was gone, and a possum was locked in the cage. There was no way the possum could get in the cage. It was a solid bottom. It was solid sides. The only entrance to that cage was that door, and it had to have the snaps taken off of it. But not only were the snaps had been removed, the plate was gone, the possum was put in, and the snaps were back, and that was one pissed off possum. He could not get out to save his soul. And I'm like, now I've got to deal with this ticked off possum. And I tipped the cage over after I took the snaps off, and it took off. Next day, the sucker was back in there, locked in that cage again. So now I had to try to get it out and get it into a bucket. I had to have help dumping this cage, and I got him in a bucket, put a lid on it. I took it like 5 miles away, and I'm like, tell your friends, for God's sakes, run, don't come back to the house because you're going to end up back in the damn cage. But if the possum had even gotten in, the plate wouldn't have been able to be gone.
Right.
Maybe got in and ate the food, but what happened to the plate? And there were so many snaps. Those snaps were like an inch apart. That's not big enough for a possum to wedge in. It was just the stuff that they did. It defied logic.
Right. They were just pranking you back.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I got called Possum Girl for the longest time. Everybody that knew me is like, how many possums have you got today? And I'm like, it's terrible. And a friend of mine is an artist, and he did this painting. In fact, I'm looking at it on my wall right now of a Sasquatch standing there, and he has a possum on his shoulder. And he was selling it. He was selling it at a conference that I was helping run and I was speaking at. And I saw that. And I went, oh my, because now the possums are like my totem animal. I'm all about the possums. And
I love possums.
a friend of mine was there, and he knew the story, and he's like, oh my gosh, you have to have that painting. So he bought it for me. Yeah, I have possums ever since the Sasquatch. Everywhere I go, possums show up. They'll come and sit at my door. They'll scratch at my front door. I feed them. They'll get up on my banister and look into my side windows around my front door.
They love your energy.
They do, apparently, or they're sending them to keep an eye on me.
Right. Let me see if there's any more questions I have on this list. I think we're done with questions. I don't think I
Good.
have anymore. Yeah,
Yeah, and if you get more, you know how to get a hold of me.
exactly. Man, it was so fun talking to you.
It was
This was
great,
a pretty
and
good first
yeah,
interview.
yeah, well, thank you. I really enjoyed it. I think you're awesome. You and I got work that we're gonna be doing together, and I'm
I
excited
know,
about
I'm
that.
excited. Super
Yeah, it's gonna be a
excited.
blast. It's gonna be a blast, and,
Yay!
in between sessions, you can text me questions about your session anytime. So,
Okay,
don't ever worry about that. I mean, because you think about it and you process it after the fact and after you get off the phone, and it's like, why didn't I ask this? So I just make sure
right.
everybody knows you can text me anytime, which we text now. So
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it works out good.
Well, maybe you can be like a regular guest too on
Yeah,
these with these interviews.
you just let me know.
You have so
No.
many amazing stories.
Oh, thank you. No, you're
Okay,
wonderful.
awesome.
So anytime you want
Well,
me
here,
back, just let me know.
oh, awesome. All right, Robin. Well, I'm gonna stop the video or see if I
Okay.
can
And you
stop
take
it.
care, sweet girl. Stay
And
in
then
touch.
thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You're the best.
My pleasure. It was an honor. Hugs and love. You
All
take care,
right.
babe.
Bye,
Bye.
Robin. Thank you. Bye.